In the vast tapestry of Pete Mitchell's memories, the Maverick, there are threads woven with the delicate strength of unspoken promises, of loves forged in the crucible of conflict, and of secrets kept in the deepest shadows of war. One such thread, vibrant yet melancholic, belongs to a story he rarely spoke of, a tale of a promise made amidst the chaos, a vow that transcended the roar of engines and the cries of battle. It was the story of Elara, a woman whose quiet strength and unwavering spirit left an indelible mark on his soul. A promise she carried, a secret kept in the shadow of war. Maverick first encountered Elara during a covert operation deep behind enemy lines, a mission shrouded in the fog of war and the urgency of survival. He was a young, audacious pilot then, driven by adrenaline and the thrill of the chase. But even in the midst of danger, Elara's presence was a calming force, a beacon of humanity in a landscape ravaged by conflict. She was a local, a resistance fighter, her eyes reflecting the weariness of a people under siege, yet burning with an unyielding hope. Their connection was immediate, an unspoken understanding that transcended language barriers and the harsh realities of their circumstances. In the fleeting moments between missions, amidst the rubble and the whispers of impending doom, they found solace in each other's company. They spoke of dreams, of a future beyond the war, of a world where peace was not just a distant hope, but a tangible reality. It was in these stolen moments that a promise was made, a silent vow to find each other when the war was over, to build a life together, free from the shadows that now consumed them. Elara was not a soldier in the traditional sense, but her courage was boundless. She risked her life daily, providing intelligence, sheltering downed pilots, and aiding the resistance movement. Maverick witnessed her bravery firsthand, the quiet determination with which she faced adversity, the unwavering commitment to her people. He saw in her a reflection of the best of humanity, a spirit that refused to be broken by the brutality of war. Their love was a dangerous secret, a fragile flame flickering in the harsh winds of conflict. Discovery would mean not only their lives, but also the compromise of the entire resistance network. Every stolen glance, every whispered word, every fleeting touch was a risk, a testament to the depth of their connection and the desperation of their circumstances. Yet they clung to it, a lifeline in a world that threatened to pull them under. As the war intensified, their paths diverged. Maverick was called to new fronts, new battles, his duty pulling him away from the woman who had captured his heart. The farewell was brief, a silent exchange of promises, a shared understanding that their love would endure, a secret kept in the shadow of war. Elara pressed a small, intricately carved wooden bird into his hand, a symbol of freedom and hope, a tangible reminder of their vow. Years passed. The war ended, leaving behind a scarred landscape and a generation forever changed. Maverick returned home, a hero, but with a piece of his heart still lingering in the war-torn lands where he had left a part of himself. He searched for Elara, tirelessly, relentlessly. But the trails were cold, the records fragmented, the memories fading into the mists of time. He clung to the wooden bird, a tangible link to a promise that felt increasingly distant. He often wondered if she had survived, if she had remembered their vow, if she had found peace in a world that had forgotten her sacrifices. The promise, once a beacon of hope, had become a haunting echo, a secret kept in the deepest recesses of his memory. He carried the weight of it, a silent burden, a testament to a love that had blossomed in the most unlikely of places. Maverick, in his retirement, found himself drawn back to the stories of those who had been lost in the shadows of war, those whose promises had been broken, whose loves had been shattered. He understood their pain, their longing, their unwavering hope. And in each story he saw a reflection of his own, a reminder of Elara, and the promise that remained a secret, kept in the shadow of war. He knew that some promises, even if unspoken, carry a weight that transcends time and distance. And some secrets, even if buried, refuse to stay hidden. This was just the beginning, the introduction to a mystery that would unfold in layers of love, loss, and the enduring power of a hidden vow. Before we begin, drop in the comments where you're tuning in from, and hit that like button if you believe some stories were never meant to be buried. As Maverick delved deeper into the fragmented memories of Ilara, the woman who held his secret promise, the narrative shifted, moving from the initial spark of their connection to the harsh realities that pulled them apart. The war, a relentless and unforgiving force, had not only separated them physically but had also etched unseen scars on their souls. Maverick, in his introspective narration, painted a vivid picture of the sacrifices made, the choices forced upon them, and the enduring pain of a love suspended in time. After their brief, poignant farewell, Maverick was plunged back into the maelstrom of aerial combat and covert operations. Each mission, each dogfight, each near-death experience was a stark reminder of the fragile line between life and death, and of the promise he carried in his heart. He flew with a new intensity, a silent dedication fueled by the hope of a future with Ilara. The wooden bird, a tangible symbol of their vow, became his silent companion, a constant reminder of what he was fighting for. Meanwhile, Ilara continued her perilous work with the resistance. Her days were a constant dance with danger, her nights filled with the whispers of fear and the hope of liberation. She moved through the shadows, a ghost in her own land, her beauty a deceptive mask for the fierce resolve that burned within her. She too clung to the memory of Maverick, to the promise of a life beyond the war, a future where love could flourish, without the constant threat of discovery or loss. The war, however, was a relentless sculptor, reshaping lives and destinies with brutal efficiency. News from Ilara's region became scarce, then ceased altogether. Rumors of intensified enemy operations, of brutal crackdowns on resistance cells, reached Maverick through hushed channels. He felt a cold dread grip his heart, a premonition of loss that no amount of courage or skill could dispel. He tried to find information, to pull strings, to use his influence, but the fog of war was thick, impenetrable. He recalled a particularly harrowing mission, a reconnaissance flight over Ilara's village. The landscape below was a desolate canvas of destruction, buildings reduced to rubble, fields scarred by craters. He searched desperately for any sign of life, any flicker of hope, but all he saw was desolation. The wooden bird in his pocket felt heavy, a burden of a promise that seemed increasingly impossible to keep. Maverick's own experiences during the war were equally brutal. He witnessed unspeakable horrors, lost comrades, and carried the weight of impossible decisions. The exhilaration of flight was often overshadowed by the grim reality of combat, the constant threat of death, and the gnawing fear of failing those he swore to protect. He saw the toll the war took on others, the way it stripped away innocence, leaving behind hardened shells of their former selves. He fought to retain his own humanity, to hold on to the memories of beauty and hope, to keep the promise alive as the war drew to a close. A new kind of battle began. The battle for peace, for reconstruction, for healing. Maverick returned home, a celebrated hero, but the cheers of the crowd felt hollow. He carried the invisible scars of war, the echoes of Ilara's promise, and the gnawing uncertainty of her fate. He searched for her, tirelessly, relentlessly, but the trails were cold, the records fragmented, the memories fading into the mists of time. The world had moved on, but for Maverick, a part of him remained trapped in the shadows of war, forever searching for a lost love. He visited the archives, poring over old intelligence reports, declassified documents, and casualty lists. He spoke to other veterans, to aid workers, to anyone who might have crossed paths with Ilara. Each dead end was a fresh wound, each unanswered question a new burden. The wooden bird, once a symbol of hope, now felt like a relic of a forgotten dream, a testament to a promise that might never be fulfilled. Maverick understood that the war had not only taken lives but had also stolen futures, shattered dreams, and buried countless stories. Ilara's promise was one of them, a secret kept not by choice, but by the cruel hand of fate. He carried the weight of it, a silent burden, a testament to a love that had blossomed in the most unlikely of places, only to be consumed by the shadows of war. He often found himself staring at the horizon, imagining Ilara there, waiting for him. He pictured her smile, the way her eyes would light up when he spoke of a future without war. These were the moments he clung to, the fragments of a dream that refused to die. The echoes of her promise, though fading, continued to resonate within him, a silent symphony of love and loss. This part of the narrative had explored the painful separation, the relentless impact of war, and Maverick's tireless search for Ilara. It had delved into the unseen scars left by conflict and the enduring power of a promise kept in the heart. The stage was now set for the next phase, where Maverick's journey would lead him to a revelation that would challenge his understanding of love, loss, and the true meaning of a secret kept in the shadow of war. Years turned into decades, and the world moved on. But for Pete Mitchell, the Maverick, the promise made to Ilara remained a silent, persistent echo in the chambers of his memory. His search, though less frantic, never truly ceased. He had learned that some truths, like some loves, refused to be buried, resurfacing when least expected, often through the most unlikely of channels. It was during one of his routine visits to a declassified military archive, a place where forgotten stories often found their voice, that a faint, almost imperceptible thread of hope began to emerge. He was sifting through old intelligence reports, looking for any mention of resistance activities in Ilara's region during the war, when a faded photograph caught his eye. It was a group of resistance fighters, their faces grim but determined, and among them, unmistakable even after all these years, was Ilara. But it wasn't just her presence that sent a jolt through him. It was the date on the photograph, taken months after he had been pulled from the region, long after he had assumed the worst. The photograph was accompanied by a brief, heavily redacted report detailing a successful, yet highly sensitive intelligence operation. The report mentioned a key operative, codenamed Nightingale, who had provided crucial information that turned the tide of a major battle. The description of Nightingale's methods, her courage, and her unwavering commitment to the cause resonated deeply with Maverick. Could Nightingale be Ilara? His heart pounded with a mixture of hope and trepidation. He knew that in the world of espionage, identities were fluid and secrets were guarded with extreme prejudice. He needed to be careful, to approach this new lead with the same precision and caution he had applied to his most dangerous missions. He sought out an old contact, a retired intelligence officer known for his discretion and his vast network of unofficial sources. The officer, a man who had seen too many secrets, listened patiently to Maverick's story, his eyes betraying a flicker of recognition when Maverick mentioned Nightingale. Nightingale was a legend, the officer stated, his voice low. One of the best. She worked deep undercover, risking everything. Her identity was so compartmentalized, even we rarely knew her true name. But her contributions, they were invaluable. Maverick pressed for more, his voice barely a whisper. Did she survive the war? The officer hesitated, his gaze distant. The official record states she was lost in action, a tragic casualty. But there were whispers, rumors of a new life, a quiet existence, far from the shadows she once inhabited. The ambiguity was both a torment and a relief. Ilara might be alive, the promise might still hold meaning. Maverick, with renewed determination, began to follow the faint trail of Nightingale, piecing together fragments of information from various sources: old resistance contacts, declassified intelligence reports, and even local folklore from the region. He discovered that Nightingale had indeed survived, but at a tremendous cost. She had been severely wounded, her identity compromised, and forced to disappear, to shed her past and embrace a new, anonymous existence. He learned that after the war, Ilara, as Nightingale, had been instrumental in helping to rebuild her war-torn community, working tirelessly to heal the wounds of conflict. She had dedicated her life to helping others, a quiet hero, her sacrifices largely unrecognized by the world. She had chosen a life of anonymity, not out of fear, but out of a profound desire for peace, a longing to escape the shadows that had defined so much of her youth. Maverick finally found her in a small, secluded village nestled in the mountains, a place untouched by the scars of war. She was older, her face etched with the lines of experience, but her eyes still held the same spark, the same quiet strength he remembered. She was a healer, a respected elder in her community, her hands, once skilled in sabotage, now tending to the sick and the weary. Their reunion was not a dramatic explosion of emotion, but a quiet, profound understanding. There were no grand declarations, no passionate embraces, just a shared gaze, a silent acknowledgement of a promise kept, a love that had endured the ravages of war and the passage of time. Ilara recognized the wooden bird he still carried, a faint smile gracing her lips. "You kept it," she whispered, her voice soft, filled with a lifetime of unspoken emotions. Maverick, his voice thick with emotion, simply nodded. "I always did." He learned of her struggles, her journey of healing, her quiet heroism. She had never forgotten him, never forgotten their promise. But the war had taught her the fragility of life, the importance of living each day to the fullest, and the profound peace that came with anonymity. She had found her own form of peace, a life dedicated to healing and compassion, far from the world of secrets and shadows. This part of the narrative had unveiled the hidden truth of Ilara's survival, her transformation into Nightingale, and her quiet life of service. It had brought Maverick face to face with the enduring power of a promise and the profound weight of a love that had defied the odds. The stage was now set for the final reflections, where Maverick would contemplate the true meaning of their reunion and the legacy of a secret kept in the shadow of war. Their reunion, a quiet symphony of unspoken understanding, marked a profound turning point for Pete Mitchell, the Maverick. It wasn't the dramatic, cinematic embrace he might have once envisioned, but something far more meaningful. A shared gaze that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of a promise kept, a love that had defied the ravages of war and the relentless march of time. Ilara, the woman he had known as Nightingale, had found her peace, a life of quiet service, far from the shadows that had once defined her. And in her presence, Maverick found a different kind of solace, a deeper understanding of the enduring power of love and the true meaning of sacrifice. He spent days in her secluded village, observing her life, listening to her stories, not of battles and espionage, but of healing, of community, of the simple joys of a life lived with purpose. He saw the respect in the eyes of the villagers, the gratitude in the faces of those she had helped. Ilara had transformed her pain into compassion, her past into a foundation for a future built on hope and healing. She was a living testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a quiet hero whose legacy was etched not in history books, but in the lives she touched. Maverick learned that Ilara had never stopped thinking of him, never forgotten their promise. But the war had taught her a harsh lesson, that some loves, some promises, were too precious to be exposed to the harsh realities of a world still grappling with its own demons. She had chosen anonymity, not out of fear, but out of a profound desire to protect the fragile peace she had found and to ensure that the love they shared remained untainted by the shadows of their past. Her secret was not a burden, but a shield, a testament to her unwavering commitment to their shared future, even if that future was lived apart. Their conversations were long and reflective, filled with the weight of shared history and the quiet understanding of two souls who had navigated the storms of life and emerged, scarred but unbroken. They spoke of the war, not with bitterness, but with a profound sense of loss and a quiet hope for a future where such conflicts would be but a distant memory. Ilara shared her experiences as Nightingale, the impossible choices she had made, the lives she had saved, and the burdens she had carried. Maverick, in turn, spoke of his own battles, his search for her, and the enduring power of the wooden bird, a tangible link to their unspoken vow. He realized that their love was not defined by physical proximity, but by the unbreakable bond of their spirits, by the shared understanding of their sacrifices, and by the unwavering commitment to a promise made in the shadow of war. Their reunion was not about rekindling a past romance, but about acknowledging a love that had transcended time and circumstance, a love that had matured, deepened, and found its true meaning in the quiet acceptance of their individual paths. Maverick observed the profound peace that Ilara exuded, a serenity that came from a life lived with integrity and purpose. She had found her own form of flight, not in the skies, but in the quiet service to her community, in the healing of wounds, and in the nurturing of hope. He saw in her a reflection of his own journey, a path towards a different kind of heroism, one defined not by daring maneuvers or impossible missions, but by the quiet courage of a life lived with authenticity and compassion. He understood that their promise, once a desperate plea for a future together, had evolved into something far grander, a testament to the enduring power of hope, a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love in its purest form can find a way to flourish. Ilara's secret was not just her promise to him, but her promise to herself, to live a life of peace and purpose, a legacy forged in the crucible of war. As Maverick prepared to leave the tranquil village, a sense of profound gratitude washed over him. He had found Ilara, not as a lost love, but as a living legend, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Their reunion had brought a quiet closure to a chapter of his life, a sense of peace that had eluded him for decades. The wooden bird, once a symbol of longing, now felt like a talisman of hope, a reminder that some promises, even if unspoken, carry a weight that transcends time and distance. He looked at Ilara, her eyes reflecting the wisdom of a life lived, with courage and compassion. There was no need for words, no need for grand gestures, just a shared understanding, a silent acknowledgement of a love that had endured, a promise kept in the shadow of war. Maverick knew that their paths might diverge again, but the bond they shared, the unspoken understanding, would remain, a timeless testament to the enduring power of love and the quiet heroism of a life lived with purpose. This part of the narrative had explored the profound meaning of Maverick and Ilara's reunion, the evolution of their promise, and the quiet legacy of a love that had defied the odds. It had delved into the deeper understanding of sacrifice, peace, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The stage was now set for the final reflections, where Maverick would contemplate the true meaning of their journey and the enduring impact of a secret kept in the shadow of war. As Pete Mitchell, the Maverick, departed from Ilara's tranquil village, a profound sense of peace settled within him, a quiet understanding that transcended the longing of a past love. Their reunion had not rekindled a forgotten romance, but had instead illuminated the enduring power of a promise, a vow made in the crucible of war that had, against all odds, found its fulfillment in a different, more profound way. Ilara, the Nightingale, had shown him that true strength lay not in the battles fought, but in the peace cultivated, in the lives touched, and in the quiet courage of a life lived with purpose. Maverick carried with him not just the memory of Ilara, but the wisdom she had imparted. He understood now that the promise was not merely about two individuals finding each other, but about the enduring human spirit, its capacity for resilience, for healing, and for finding meaning even in the face of unimaginable loss. The wooden bird, once a symbol of a yearning heart, now represented the freedom found in acceptance, the hope that blossomed from understanding, and the quiet strength of a love that had transcended the physical realm. His journey as the chronicler of untold stories took on a new depth. He continued to seek out the hidden narratives, the whispers of courage and sacrifice that lay buried beneath the official histories. But now, his perspective was enriched by Ilara's quiet wisdom. He sought not just the dramatic climaxes and the heroic deeds, but the subtle acts of kindness, the enduring bonds, and the profound transformations that emerged from the crucible of conflict. He understood that every scar told a story, and every story held a lesson. Maverick often found himself gazing at the horizon, a vast expanse of sky and possibility. He thought of Ilara, living her life of quiet service, a beacon of hope in her mountain village. He knew that their paths might not physically intertwine again, but their spirits were forever connected by the promise they had made, a promise that had evolved from a personal vow into a universal truth, that even in the darkest of times, love, in its myriad forms, endures, offering solace, strength, and a guiding light. He reflected on the countless individuals whose lives had been touched by war, those who had made promises, kept secrets, and carried burdens in silence. He understood that his role was to give voice to these unspoken narratives, to ensure that their sacrifices were not forgotten and that their resilience served as an inspiration for future generations. The Maverick Chronicles were not just about the past. They were about the present and about the lessons that could illuminate the path forward. He thought of the young men and women who now served, facing new threats in a rapidly changing world. He hoped that they too would find their own Ilaris, their own promises to cling to, their own quiet strengths to draw upon. He hoped that they would learn from the stories of the past, understanding that true victory lay not just in conquering an enemy, but in preserving one's humanity, in upholding one's values, and in finding peace within oneself. Maverick, in his quiet moments, felt a profound sense of gratitude for the life he had lived, for the battles he had fought, and for the lessons he had learned. He had seen the worst of humanity, but he had also witnessed its extraordinary capacity for love, for courage, and for redemption. And in Ilara, he had found a living testament to the enduring power of hope, a promise kept in the shadow of war that had, ultimately, led to a horizon of peace. He turned to the camera, his gaze steady and profound, reflecting the wisdom of a life lived on the edge and the quiet resolve of one who had found his true mission. His voice, now a familiar comfort, resonated with the weight of experience and the unwavering belief in the power of truth. Some ghosts don't haunt us, they protect us. If this story moved you, let us know below. And don't forget to subscribe for the next declassified Maverick file. Maverick offered a faint, knowing smile, a silent acknowledgement of the ongoing journey. The legacy of Ilara's promise, a secret kept in the shadow of war, would live on, a poignant reminder of love's enduring power and the human spirit's unwavering resilience in the Maverick Chronicles. And he, Pete Mitchell, the Maverick, would continue to tell these stories, ensuring that no lesson was forgotten and that no truth remained buried.